Bien, j'apprends dans cette idée.
I'm Emma Albright, and this is Paris Calling. Today, Shi Yang Shi, Milan, Italy.
Insomma, ve lo presento, è una grande storia la sua. Lui si chiama Shi Yang Shi.
我的家只在米兰，在世界上没有任何一个地方让我感觉是家里，只有在米兰。
No, I don't call both countries home. My only home is Milan. Nowhere else feels like home. I even know where I want to die, in Albagnano, above Lago Maggiore, in a temple called the Heavenly Temple on Earth.
天坛寺就刚说的冈天喇嘛的这个寺庙，我会死在那里。
With his broad shoulders and matinee idol jawline, Shi Yang Shi is a recognizable presence on Italian television and movie screens. From a medical student in Go-Go Tales to Mr. Ping in Tradita and Iraqi in Enea, he's portrayed an unusually wide range of characters, as diverse as his own personal journey navigating identity and belonging in his adopted homeland of Italy.
33 trentini entrarono a Trento, tutti e 33 trotellando. È la prima cosa che ci dicono gli italiani per pigliarci per il culo. Ma noi studiamo e li freghiamo.
And even if he's delivered TV zingers in flawless Italian on the satirical news show Le Iene, Yang notes that for the first 11 years of his life, he knew nothing about Italy at all. Yang was born into a well-off family in the eastern Chinese city of Ji'nan. Speaking from Milan on a recent afternoon, he recounted how his Italian dream was already taking shape years before he immigrated.
这个故事要讲的话，可能该拍部电影才能讲出来。
You really could make my immigration story into a film. Recently, while I was filming in Naples, I met an old Neapolitan friend of my father. They'd first met in 1982, so I now realize that my connection to Italy had already begun years before. This friend, named Salvatore, is now in his late 70s. When we met, he pulled out a yellowed postcard. It was one that my father wrote to him in 1983, also on behalf of then 4-year-old me and my mother, wishing his family a Merry Christmas.
庆贺圣诞节快乐。
Yang grew up in a wealthy family. His father, a young engineer from Ji'nan's leading machine factory, was sent to Italy for technical training, while his mother was a surgeon at a state hospital. The family of 3 lived in a neighborhood surrounded by families of doctors and
济
nurses.
南有个省立医院，我妈妈是内科。
Because both my mother and grandmother were doctors, I sort of grew up in hospitals. That's where many of my happiest memories were. I remember I was in the 2nd or 3rd grade when I first learned the word wealthy. My friend Li Bin and his little brother couldn't afford roasted chicken, Dezhou spiced chicken in Shandong, once a week like my family could. That's also how I got the nickname Pang Pang, which translates to chubby. Another memory was when my father brought me a skateboard from a trip abroad. Back in the 1980s in China, almost no one had one. So yes, there was a real sense at home that we were privileged.
还是有很强的优越感。
In 1990, several years after Yang's father first went to Italy, the family made a momentous decision to move west in search of new opportunities they were told were waiting for them. His father would temporarily stay behind in China, working at a trading company and caring for Yang's grandmother, while Yang and his mother set off on a long journey to a distant land they had only heard stories about. They first landed in Frankfurt and a year later were sent to southern Italy without official papers through a Chinese network, one they would later learn was built on false promises, exploiting them for hard labor with little in return.
到了意大利以后一塌糊涂。
As soon as we arrived, everything fell apart and kept getting worse. Our passports were confiscated. I was 12 and had to pretend to be 16. My mother, once a respected surgeon in China, could only work as a cleaner in a small hotel, and I washed dishes in a restaurant. You weren't allowed to eat until you finished, and you couldn't ever leave. When the toilet clogged and sewage floated up, someone had to clean it. My mother did. You feel helpless in moments like that. That's when I knew fate had changed and I didn't know how to change it back. But my mother saw it differently. She told me that going through this hardship was for building perseverance and resilience for life. It sounds very classic Chinese parenting, but for me, I just didn't understand how things could change so quickly. So I thought I had to change too to become a good student again. Since arriving in Italy, my mother said I had become a bit Italian, in a way of being undisciplined, not the model student anymore. But as the suffering in life kept piling up, I decided If I don't study well, I'll end up my whole life as a laborer. I can't accept that. I have to change my destiny.
这个我受不了，我要改变自己的命运。
For Yang, those early immigrant experiences didn't just come as a lesson of survival, but a quieter revelation of what he really wanted to be, even though it was against the wishes of his mother and father. He dreamed of becoming an actor.
那就是不想自杀呀，一种绝望感。
The reason I became an actor, honestly, was that I didn't want to die of despair. I had been betraying myself over and over out of a sense of responsibility and burden of not disappointing my parents' expectation that wasn't truly mine. I already knew I was gay. I came out at 21, and I didn't want to let myself down for the second time, especially not in front of my father. Becoming an actor was like playing a big joke on my parents. In Shandong, we like to use the expression, yanking the chair out from under you. That's what I did. I created expectations and then yanked them away. A top university, big salaries, bringing honor back, helping them out of poverty, or at least back to the comfortable life we used to have. I ended up not choosing that.
从来没有给自己一次机会去做真正的自我。
Having first found work as a simultaneous Chinese to Italian translator, Yang was encouraged to begin his acting career in the theater.
我认识米兰的小剧院的那位大师 Soleri， 他是
I met my mentor at the Piccolo Teatro in Milan, Soleri, an actor who was well known for masked performances. He lent me his mask so I could audition. In China, tens of thousands compete for 20 spots, but here it was 500 competing for 20. I ranked 21st. Then the person in 20th place got into another Milan school, and I slipped into that open spot.
这个地方就腾出一个位置，我就进去了。一部话剧，
The first play I performed in was Mother Courage and Her Children. I played the second son, a corpse with speaking lines. The audience said I was convincing. At that moment, I knew I could be an actor. Though the pay was 80 euros a day, and as an interpreter I could make 10 times that, it gave me the chance to perform in mainstream theaters. Each city has one or two, and I knew my identity had shifted. I could make a living from acting, barely, but a
身
living.
份转变了，我靠这个吃饭了。
Over the next 2 years, Yang appeared in more than 160 performances across Italy. Life in the theater offered its own lessons.
但后来发现，
I realized two things. For one, no matter how well you perform in the play, there will always be wealthy Italian women in fancy coats, sitting in their seat, falling asleep and snoring. And I knew that's not because I wasn't acting well enough or the play wasn't directed well. It was the reality that theater was no longer attractive to the Italian public. It was all about cinema, TV, and other kinds of media emerging, and the fact that some Italian plays hadn't been telling stories about today. I've always been thrilled to work as an actor, but as a Chinese outsider, there weren't many roles, and I was constantly reminded of the risk of unemployment, like many other actors are. I'd say I took it not only as a threat to my career, but also a motivation for myself to stay on this path. Actually, very special thanks to my father, who brought me to the field of translation, and I haven't stopped since the age of 14. I even once interpreted for Xi Jinping before he became president. My translation work allowed me to pursue my acting
话
ambitions.
剧
After years devoting himself to theater, he began to get Italian TV and movie roles in 2014. As he began to be recognized, the once shy Yang became what he calls an ultimate extrovert. Across his film and television roles, he's played everything from villains and fathers to restaurant owners, bodyguards, and even voiced characters in Disney films. Figures as varied and layered as his own journey between cultures. Yet among them all, Yang says a few truly reflect who he is.
还不多，真能够暴露我内心深处
About roles that truly resonate, and I still haven't had enough, especially those that reveal my darker, conflicted parts. Two recent ones stand out. Enea, directed by Pietro Castellitto, I played a Japanese chef, filmed completely naked with a prosthetic. I was chasing someone trying to kill me, then was having sex with an octopus, all in 90 seconds. I told my agent, full frontal, then we'd better talk about money. But in truth, that scene was about something deeper for me, sexual liberation, and the freedom to own it. The other was L'ultima notte di amore. I played a bodyguard who turns into a killer, even shooting a policeman. As a Buddhist, I recited a mantra as I pulled the trigger. For me, releasing violence on screen isn't just performance, it's a way to expose a layer of humanity that most people prefer not to see. The film itself had its flaws, but it filled a gap. A story set in Milan, revealing a side of the city that cinema rarely touches.
After more than 20 years on stage and 10 years on screen, Yang has no plans to slow down.
I hope to act into my 90s. There's still so much to study. For me, acting means recognizing your true nature, including the sides you don't want to see. When I'm not working, I still train online for more than 6 hours a day. My teacher, Michelle Lonsdale-Smith, is a Canadian coach in her 60s who teaches the Strasbourg method. It's very different from Italian commedia dell'arte or French traditions, much more rooted in cinematic realism. Through this training, I've started to find my most authentic self, the parts of me that are addictive, violent, aggressive, or sexually driven, the sides I usually keep hidden, but when I bring them into a role, they become something beautiful as parts of human nature. That's what this work gives me.
Of course, Yang has also had a front row seat to the growing and evolving Chinese communities in Italy.
Since around 2015, I've seen a lot changing within Italy's Chinese communities. In Milan, Rome, Florence, Prato, Naples, cities where the Chinese presence runs deep. Milan alone has more than a century of migration history, but there's still this stereotype that Chinese people only live in their own world and then we fill our wallets and send money back home. But many of us, the second and third generation, could never go back, and some can't even speak the language. I speak fluent Chinese because I came here at 11 and I performed a lot of shows in Chinese. But most of my peers speak Italian better than Chinese or only their Chinese dialects. So for people like us, going back usually just means visiting family, studying for a while, or paying respect to our roots. But here's actually where we build and live our lives. Still, while the image of the Chinese community in Italy has improved in many ways, there are sides of it that need our constant attention. Just the other day, I saw a video that really shocked me. 2 Chinese men in Milan's Chinatown attacking each other with knives, even cleavers, on a Sunday morning. It looked like something straight out of a Hong Kong movie from the 80s. Watching that, I felt reality had gone far beyond what art or imagination could ever capture. It reminded me that we can't ignore what's happening within our own community. We often insist there's no such thing as a Chinese mafia, that what outsiders say about it is exaggerated, but we still have to face the darker sides of ourselves. Corruption, money laundering, internal violence. As an actor, I don't judge. My job is to understand. Playing a killer, for instance, can even be a good thing because it lets me explore the other side of human nature, the side most people would rather turn away from.
Abbiamo tutti molte sfaccettature del carattere, May, con aspetti a volte complicati. L'obiettivo non è nascondere il lato negativo, ma trovargli posto, conviverci.
When Yang returned to China for a recent film role, he found that the country he left behind, and the one he had imagined, no longer looked the same.
When I went back to China this June, it felt like the first time I saw China without my rose-tinted glasses. I worked in Beijing for about 10 days and I really saw what they call involution, that endless, exhausting competition in China. One night, when it was just past midnight, we had just finished shooting. I asked a young woman on the crew if we could rewatch one of the cuts. She looked at me and said, "If we watch again, I'll literally jump off the building." She had to work until 3 or 4 a.m. every day and get up by 7.
Between two worlds, Yang keeps moving, not searching for a home, but for balance. Between his faith, his craft, and the places that shaped him, he's learned that belonging isn't always about where you live, but how you see.
If I ever make good money from my filming career, I'd buy a house by the sea in Italy. China, for me, it's a place to visit relatives, sweep graves, feel the sweetness of my childhood. After living there for a month in June, when I got back to Italy, the first thing I realized was, China has developed so quickly. And why does Italy feel so slow and behind? The train is moving 1 kilometer an hour. It was hard to accept, until a few days later, I was back like a fish in water. I've lived here too long, and my sense of belonging is in Italy. That won't change.
Paris Calling is a World Crunch podcast. Post-production and interview done by Eva Liu, and narration is by me, Emma Albright. Editing is by Jeff Israeli. Credit to MigFuzz20 on Freesound and Alban Go on Pixabay for music used in this production. An artificial intelligence voice matching software was used in the creation of the English language voice of Shi Yang Shi. With each episode of Paris Calling, we discover someone else somewhere else. Support Paris Calling with likes, shares, and ratings on your favorite platforms.